Shiver, and I believe we are in the late 20 chapters. I might turn the gain up a bit on this, simply because I have to be a little more back. And I think I will take off the mic cover, and I hope that this will be sufficient enough. I am trying to figure out how to kind of keep this set up, but also be able to read the book without bumping into the mic. So we are going to continue reading Shiver. Maybe. Chapter 33, Sam, 41 degrees Fahrenheit. That night, for the first time in a long time, I dreamed of Mr. Dario's dogs. I woke up, sweaty and shuddering, the taste of blood in my mouth. I rolled away from Grace, feeling like my pounding heart would wake her, and licked my bloody lips. I'd bitten my tongue. It was so easy to forget the permanent violence of my world when I was human, safe in Grace's bed. It was easy to see, as she must see us, ghosts in the woods, silent, magical. And if we were only wolves, maybe she would be right. Real wolves wouldn't be a threat. But these weren't real wolves. The dream whispered that I was ignoring the signs, the ones that said I was bringing the violence of my world to Grace's. Wolves at her school, her friend's house, and now hers. Wolves that hid human hearts within their pelts, lying there in Grace's bed in the dark room. I strained my ears, listening. I thought I could hear toenails on the deck, and imagined I could smell Shelby's scent even through the window. I knew she wanted me, wanted what I stood for. I was the favorite of Beck, the human pack leader, and also of Paul, the wolf pack leader, and the logical successor to both. In our little world, I had a lot of power, and oh, Shelby wanted power. Dario's dogs proved that. When I was 13, living in Beck's house, our nearest neighbor, some 75 acres away, moved out and sold his gigantic house to a wealthy eccentric by the name of Mr. Dario. Personally, I didn't find Mr. Dario himself very impressive. He had a peculiar smell that suggested he died, and then he'd been preserved. He spent most of the time we were in his house explaining the complicated alarm device he installed to protect his antiques. Business. He means drugs, Beck told me later, and waxing poetic about the guard dogs he turned out of his house while he was gone. Then he showed them to us. They were gargoyles come to life, a snarling mask of froth and wrinkled pale skin. A South American breed meant to guard cattle, Mr. Dario said. He looked pleased when he explained that they would rip a man's face off and eat it. Beck's expression was dubious as he said he hoped Mr. Dario didn't let them off the property, pointing to collars with metallic prongs on the insides. Shocks the hell out of the dogs, Beck said later, and made a jingling motion to indicate voltage. Mr. Dario assured us that the only people getting their faces ripped off would be the ones sneaking into the property at night to steal his antiques. He showed us the power box that controlled the dog shock collars and kept them near the house. It was covered with a powdery, dry black paint and left dark smudges on his hands. Nobody else seemed to think about those dogs, but I was obsessed with them. All I could think about was them getting loose and tearing back your Paul into pieces, ripping one of their faces off and eating it. For weeks, I was preoccupied with the idea of the dogs, and in the heat of summer, I found Beck in the kitchen in shorts and a t-shirts, basting ribs for the barbecue. Beck, he didn't look up from his careful painting. What do you need, Sam? Would you like to show me how to kill Mr. Dario's dogs? Beck spun a face at me and added, if I had to. You won't have to. I hated to beg, but I did it anyway. Please, Beck winced. You don't have the stomach for that sort of work. It was true. As a human, I had an antagonizing sensitivity to the sight of blood. Please. Beck made a face and told me no, but the next day he brought home half a dozen raw chickens and taught me how to find a weak part of the joints and break them. When I didn't pass out at the sight of snapping chickens, he brought red meat that oozed blood out and made my jaw slack with nausea. The bones were hard, cold, unforgiving underneath my hands, impossible to break without finding the joint. Tired of this yet, Beck asked after a few days. I shook my head. The dogs haunted my dreams and ran through the songs I wrote, so we kept on. Beck found home videos of dog fights. Together we watched the dogs tear each other apart. I kept a hand pressed over my mouth and my stomach churning at the sight of gore, and watched how some dogs went for the jugular and some went for the front legs, snapping them and rendering their opponents powerless. Beck pointed out one particularly unequal fight. A huge pit bull and a little mixed terrier. Look at the little dog. That would be you. When you're human, you're stronger than most people, but you're still not going to be as strong as Mr. Dario's dogs. Look how the little one fights. He weakens the big dog, then suffocates him. I watched the little terrier kill the bigger dog, and then Beck and I went outside and fought big dog, little dog. Summer vanished. We began to change one by one. The oldest and most careless of the first. Soon there was just a handful of humans left. Beck out of stubbornness, Ulrich from sheer cunning, Shelby to be closer to Beck and me because I was young and not yet fragile. I will never forget the sounds of the dog fight. Someone who hasn't heard it can't imagine the sort of primal savagery of two dogs bent to destroy each other. Even as a wolf, I never came across that sort of struggle. Pack members fought for distance, not to kill. Pack members fought for dominance, not to kill. I was in the woods. Becca told me not to leave the house, so of course I was walking out in the evening. I had half an idea that I was going to write a song in the exact moment between day and night, and I had just seized a scrap of lyric when I heard the dog fight. The sound was close, here in the woods, not near Mr. Dario's, but I knew it couldn't be wolves. I recognized the rippling snarl immediately, and then it came into sight. Two giant white ghosts of dogs in the dim evening, Dario's monsters, with them a black. Wolf struggling, bleeding, rolling in beneath the underbrush. The wolf paw was doing everything pack behavior dictated, ears back, tail down, half turned head. Everything he did screamed submission, but the dogs knew no pack behavior. All they knew was attack, and so they began to pull Paul to shreds. Hey, I shouted, my voice not as strong as I'd expected. I tried again, and this time it was a halfway growl. Hey! One of the dogs broke off and rushed me. I spun and rolled my eyes on the other white demon. Its teeth collapsed on the black wolf's throat. Paul was gasping for breath, and the side of his face was soaked with crimson. I threw myself against the dog that held him, and the three of us crashed to the ground. The monster was heavy, blood-streaked, and all muscle. I grabbed for its throat with a pitifully weak human hand and missed. Dead weight hit my back, and I felt hot drool on my neck. I twisted just in time to avoid a killing bite from one dog and got the other's teeth in my shoulder instead. I felt bone grate against bone, the sick, fiery sensation of a dog's tooth sliding up against my collarbone. Beck, I yelled. It was maddening, hard to still think through the pain, and with Paul dying in front of me. Still, I remember that little terrier, fast, deadly, brutal. I snaked a hand forward to the dog that had the murder grip on Paul's neck. I grabbed the front leg, found the joint, and I didn't think about the blood. I didn't think about the sound it was going to make. I didn't think about anything but the mechanical action of snap. The dog's eyes rolled. It whistled through its nose, but it didn't release its grip. My survival instinct was screaming at me to get the other animal off me. It was shaking and grinding my shoulder in its jaws. That felt iron heavy and fire hot. I imagined I could feel my bones wrenching free from their proper positions. I imagined my arm was being torn from its socket, but Paul couldn't wait. I could feel my right arm very well, but with my left I grabbed a handful of dog throat in my hand and twisted, tightened, suffocated until I heard the monster gasping. I was that little terrier. The dog was tireless in its grip on Paul's neck, but I was equally tireless in mine, reaching up from the other dog that was grinding my shoulder down. I flopped my dead right hand over the first dog's nose and pressed its nostrils close. I didn't think of anything. My mind was far away in the house, someplace warm, listening to music, reading a poem, anywhere but here, killing. For a terrible minute, nothing happened. Sparks flashed before my eyes. Then the dog flapped to the ground, and Paul fell out of its grip. There was blood everywhere. Mine, Paul's, the dog. Don't let go. It was Beck's voice. And now I heard the dull crash of footsteps in the wood. Don't let go. He's not yet. I couldn't feel my hands anymore. Couldn't feel anything anymore. But I thought I was still clutching the dog's neck. That one that had been biting Paul, and then I felt the teeth in my shoulder jerk as the dog was gripping my neck, lurched. A wolf, Ulrich, was snarling, growing for its neck, dragging it off of me. There was a pop, and I realized it was a gun. Another pop again, much closer, and a jerk beneath my fingers. Ulrich backed away from us, breathing hard, and then there was so much silence that my ears rang. Beck gently peeled my hands off the dog's growing throat and pressed them against my shoulder instead. The blood flow slowed immediately. I started to feel better as my incredibly messed up body started to heal itself. Beck knelt down in front of me. He was shaking with the cold. His skin was gray, the bend of his shoulders wrong. You had the right, didn't you? You saved him. Those poor damn chickens didn't go to waste. Behind him, steady, Shelby stood silently, arms crossed, watching Paul grasping in the dry dead leaves, watching me and Beck with our heads together. Her hands were fists, and one of them had a black powdery smear on it. Now in the soft darkness of Grace's room, I rolled over and pressed my face into her shoulder. Strange that my most violent moments had been as a human, not as a wolf. Outside, I heard the distant scratching of toenails on the deck. I closed my eyes and tried to concentrate on the sound of Grace's beating heart. The taste of blood in my mouth reminded me of winter. I knew Shelby had let those dogs out. She wanted me at the top with her beside me, and Paul was in my way. And now Grace was a nurse. Let me see how long this next chapter is. Let's see. I guess I can read another one. Yeah. Let's read one more chapter. Chapter 34, Grace, 49 degrees. Days blurred into a collage of common images. Cool walks across the school parking lot. Olivia's empty seat in class. Sam's breath in my ear. Pomperts in our front yard. Frosted blades of grass. By the time the weekend arrived, I felt breathless with waiting, although I wasn't sure what I was waiting for. Sam had tossed and turned the knife before, plagued by a nightmare, and he looked so terrible on Saturday morning that instead of making any plans to go out, I just parked him on the couch after my parents had gone to brunch at a friend's house. I lay in the curve of Sam's arm as he flipped through various bad made-for-TV movies. We settled on a sci-fi thriller that'd probably cost us less to produce than The Bronco. Rubbery tentacles were everywhere. When Sam finally said something, "Doesn't it bother you that your parents are the way they are?" I muscled my face into his armpit. It smells very Sam in there. Let's not talk about them. Let's talk about them. Oh, why? What's there to tell? It's fine. They're fine. They're the way they are. Sam's fingers gently found my chin and lifted my face up. Grace, it's not fine. I've been here for how many weeks now? I don't even know. But I know how it is, and it's not fine. They are who they are. I never knew anybody's parents were different until I started school. Until I started reading. But seriously, Sam, it's okay. My skin felt hot. I pulled my chin away from his hand and looked down at the screen where a compact car was drowning in slime. Grace, Sam said softly. He was sitting so still as if for once I was the wild animal that might vanish if he moved a muscle. You don't have to pretend around me. I watched the car crumble into pieces along with the driver and the passenger. It was hard to tell what was going on with this turned down, but it looked like the pieces were reforming into tentacles. There was a guy walking a dog in the background, and he didn't even seem to notice. How could he not not notice. I didn't look at Sam, but I knew he was watching me, not the television. I didn't know what he thought I was going to say. I had nothing to say. This was not a problem. It was a way of life. The tentacles on the screen began to drag along the ground, looking for the original tentacle monster, so they could reattach themselves. There was no way that they would not be able to. The original alien was on fire in Washington, D.C., melting around a model of the Washington Monument. The new tentacles were just going to have to torment the world on their own. Why can't I make them love me any more than they do? Did I say that? It didn't sound like my voice. Sam's fingers brushed my cheeks, but there weren't any tears. I was nowhere close to tears. Grace, they love you. It's not about you. It's their problem. I've tried so hard. I never get into trouble. I always do my homework. I cook their damn meals when they're home, which is never. Definitely not my choice. I didn't swear, and I nearly got killed twice, but that didn't change anything. It's not like I want them to jump all over me. I just want one day. I couldn't finish the sentence because I didn't know how it ended. Sam dragged me into his arms. Oh, Grace, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm not crying. He wiped my tears with his thumb carefully and showed me the tear trapped on his fingertip. Feeling foolish, I let him ball me up in his lap and tuck me under his chin. I had my own voice back again, hearing a muffled shelter in his arms. Maybe I'm too good. If I got in trouble at school or burned down people's garages, they'd have to notice me. You're not like that. You know you're not like that, he said. That's just silly, selfish people, that's all. I'm sorry I asked, okay? Let's just watch this dumb movie. I laid my cheek against his chest and listened to the thump of his heart. It sounded so normal, just like a regular human. Just like a regular human heart. He'd been human long enough that I almost couldn't detect the faint odor of the woods on him or remember what it was like to bury my fingers in his rough. Sam turned up the volume on the aliens and we sat like that, one creature in two bodies for a long time until I forgot what I had been upset about, and I was myself again. I wish I had what you have, I said. What do I have? Your back, Beck, Ulrich. When you talk about them, I can see how important they are to you. I said, they made you this person. I pushed a finger into his chest. They're wonderful, so wonderful. Sam closed his eyes. I didn't know about that. He opened them again. Anyway, your parents made you who you are too. Do you think you'd be so independent if they were around more? At least you're someone. When they're not around, I feel like I'm not who I was before because so much of being me is being with Beck and Ulrich and the others. I heard a car pull into the driveway and straightened up. I knew Sam heard it too. Time to vanish, he said, but I held onto his arm. I'm tired of sneaking around. I think it's time for you to meet them. He didn't argue, but he threw a worried glance in the direction of the front door. And now we come to an end, he said. Don't be melodramatic. They won't kill you. He looked at me. He flushed my cheeks. Sam, I didn't mean it like... God, I'm sorry. I wanted to look away from his face, but I couldn't seem to. Like watching a car crash. I kept waiting for the collision, but his expression never changed. It was as if there was a little disconnect between the memories of Sam's parents and his emotion. A slight misfire that mercilessly kept him whole. Sam rescued me by changing the subject, which was incredibly generous. Should I play a friendly boyfriend or are we just friends? Boyfriend, I'm not pretending. Sam edged 2 inches away from me and pulled his arms from behind my head, resting in the back of the couch behind me instead. To the wall, he said, hello, Grace's parents. I'm Grace's boyfriend. Please notice the chaste distance between us. I am very responsible and I had never had my tongue in your daughter's mouth. The door cracked open and both of us jumped with matching nervousness. Is that you, Grace? Mom's called. Voice called lightly from the hallway. Or are you a burglar? Burglar, I called back. I'm going to wet myself. Sam whispered in my ear. Are you sure that's you, Grace? Mom sounded suspicious. She wasn't used to me laughing. Is Rachel here? Dad came in first into the living room in the doorway and stopped immediately, spotting Sam. In a barely perceptible moment, Sam turned his head just enough that the light didn't catch his yellow eyes. An automatic gesture that made me realize that for the first time that Sam had been an oddity, even before he was a wolf. Dad's eyes were on Sam, just looking. Sam was looking back, tense but not terrified. Would he be sitting so calmly if he knew that Dad had been one of the hunting party in the woods? I was suddenly ashamed of my father, just another human that the wolves had to fear. I was glad I hadn't said anything to Sam. My voice was tight. Dad, this is Sam. Sam, this is Dad. Dad looked at him for a split second more and then he smiled widely. Please tell me you're a boyfriend. Sam's eyes became perfectly round and I let out a big breath. Yes, he's a boyfriend, Dad. Well, that's nice. I was beginning to think you didn't do that kind of thing. Dad, what's going on here? Mom's voice was different. She was already in the kitchen rummaging rummaging in the fridge. The food at brunch must have been bad. Who's Sam? My boyfriend. With Mom's presence came an ever-present cloud of turpentine vapors. She had paint smeared on her lower arms. Knowing Mom, I guess she'd intentionally let herself that way. When she went out, she looked from me to Sam and back to me again, her expression quizzical. Mom, this is Sam. Sam, Mom. I smelled emotion rolling off of them, though I couldn't tell which ones exactly. Mom was staring at Sam's eyes, just staring and staring. It's damn. Sam seemed fixed in place. I punched his arm. Nice to meet you, he said, voice automatic. Mom, my his mom, or it's Mom. To her credit, she looked slightly abashed. When she snapped out of it, she said to Sam, apologetic, your face looks very familiar. Yeah, right, as if even an infant couldn't tell it was a transparent excuse for staring at his eyes. I used to work at the bookstore downtown. Sam's voice was hopeful. Mom whacked a finger at him. I'll bet it's that. She beamed at Sam, then used her 100-watt smile, erasing any social atrocity she may have committed. Well, it's nice to meet you. I'm going to go upstairs and work for a while. She displayed her painted arms, indicating that she meant by work. And I felt a brief flash of irritation toward her. I knew her serial flirtation was just habitual, a knee-jerk reaction to any unfamiliar guy who had reached puberty but still grow up. Sam surprised me by saying, I'd like to see the studio while I'm here if you don't mind. Grace told me a little bit about your art and I'd love to see it. This was particularly true. I told him about a particularly nauseating show of hers I'd gone to where all of the paintings were named after types of clouds, but were portraits of women in bathing suits. Meaningful art sailed over my head. I didn't get it. I didn't want to get it. Mom smiled in a plastic sort of way. She probably thought Sam's understanding of meaningful art was similar to mine. I looked at Sam dubiously. This sort of sucking up seemed unlike him. Unlike Mom had vanished upstairs. After Mom had vanished upstairs and Dad had vanished into his study, I demanded, are you a sucker for punishment? Sam unmuted the television in time for a woman to be eaten by something with tentacles. All that was left after the attack was a fake-looking severed arm lying on the sidewalk. I just think I need to make her like me. The only person in this house who has to like you is me. Don't worry about them. Sam picked up a sofa cushion and hugged it to himself, pressing his face into it, his voice muffled. She might have to put up with me for a long time, you know. How long? His smile was amazingly sweet. The longest forever. Sam's lips smiled, but above his grin, his yellow eyes turned sad as if he knew it was a lie. Longer. I closed the distance between us and settled into the crook of his arm, and we went back to watching the tentacle alien slowly creep through the sewer system of an unsuspecting town. Sam's eyes flickered around the screen as if he was actually watching the futile intergalactic battle, but I sat there and tried to figure out why Sam had to change, and I didn't.